All right, welcome back, guys. We've got an amazing guest here with Dustin Adams. It kind of scares me because your last name's almost the same as my 9-to-5 boss, and he always gives me crap for having a side gig. But anyway, we got Dustin here, and Dustin loves to make arrows. He builds arrows, loves doing that on. I don't think that's your full-time gig, right? That's on the side.
Well, it's becoming full time. Actually,
There you go.
We're kind of in that transition.
So he loves it so much he's turned it into a full-time thing, guys. I don't know if I love arrow building that much, but Dustin really enjoys building arrows, and he's got his company. He's got a ton of things going on in his life as well, and you may notice he's got an awesome ginger beard too. So of course I had to get him on the podcast. But Dustin, for people that don't know who you are, because you always put your clean arrow builds on Instagram and never really show your face unless you go live. Who are you?
So I'm Dustin Adams. I founded and own Adams Precision Archery. We're a high-end custom arrow builder, veteran-owned company, veteran staffed company, which I think is really cool. We have all veteran employees, and yeah, man, we're just trying to change the game as far as arrow building goes. We're doing some other things too. We own a wrap company, and we've got some other really cool stuff kind of in the works right now. So I'm just a regular dude that's into archery that is here to change the game, man.
Oh, that's awesome. So let me just ask, did this idea of doing an arrow building company come from those nights of sitting down, watching YouTube and building your own arrows, or where did that come from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that it's the same story everywhere, right? Like it started with, I think that I was looking for a little bit more than what I was getting from my local shop. And I taught myself how to do it. And one thing led to another. And I had friends asking for me to build them, and then their friends asking. And it was actually my wife that pressured me into actually trying to legitimize it and make a business out of it. So without her, this thing probably wouldn't be happening right now. But she pushed me. I came home from work one day. She said, "Hey, here's your LLC information. Here's your Instagram login, and go make a business out of it." And so that's kind of how it came about, man.
No, that's awesome. It's interesting and we were talking about Montana Knife Company a little bit before hopping on here, but some amazing companies are started because of spouses, or at least the very, I guess, dedicated support that certain spouses give. And I know I couldn't do what I do if it wasn't for my wife in the background, and she'll never want to be in the spotlight. I get a lot of people that ask, when is she coming on the podcast? Honestly, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but just know that what I do anyway has a lot to do with the fact that she's coordinating behind the scenes when I'm gone hunting, when I'm up doing other things with maybe one or two of the kids, not all of them. She's running the show behind the scenes. So I love hearing that about your wife as well.
Yeah, man. It's I think if you really looked at it right, I think behind every company that's doing well, there's one of those, because I am so thankful that I have a partner that's also an avid bow hunter. And so, there's never that strife, right? Like when hunting season comes, we're both excited about it. We're both looking forward to it. And to be honest with you, with the exception of the marketing side of it, as far as, running our social media and trying to, get our brand and information out there, she's running this deal, man. She's doing all the accounting stuff. She does all the web design. She does APA Wrapped, which is our wrap company. She manages all of that. All I do is build and sell arrows and work our social media channels. Honestly, I mean, she's running the company outside of that.
No, that's awesome. That is outstanding to hear. And that's really cool. I always say that there's one good ginger behind every company in the outdoors industry that's successful as well. So between gingers and good spouses, I think the outdoors industry is pretty well taken care of.
Yeah, we got to put together.
Yeah, which is funny though, because we burn so easily. It's funny that we're so into the outdoors, even though we're just we just burn. but
Well, but for me, I stay indoors in the summertime,
Mhm.
man. I'm an outdoors winter guy, man. I'm not, I'm not a beach guy or a get out there, man. I'm not trying to get roasted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love the mountains so much, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I grew up in North Carolina, and my mom is very much a beach person. And all of my bad sunburn experiences have to do with the beach. All of them. Like,
100%. Yeah.
I can't think of one, even on the lake. Like, I get sunburnt on the lake, but it's
No,
not
the
the
salt,
same.
man.
Yeah.
The salt. Yeah, the salt in the air, man. It cooks guys like us. We have to run for cover, bro.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. But no, that's really cool. So you build arrows. Now, I guess kind of let's talk a little bit before that. So are you a veteran? I guess I don't even know that about
yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah. I
Perfect.
was in the army in my younger years, man. '02 to '06. Did a tour in Iraq and made some really cool, like, some lifelong friendships and that sort of thing. And then I got out and somehow got suckered into working for Toyota for 15, 16 years, and then this happened, and now I'm on my way out the door with Toyota and breaking into the archery industry, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I grew up, so being in North Carolina, Fort Bragg is where I was born, basically, and all of my family was, military veterans, and whether it be from Air Force, my dad was a Marine, so technically I was born at Cherry Point, right there in North Carolina, and so I definitely have a huge respect for people that, whether you spend an entire career in the military or a certain amount of years in the military, there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot of service, and I chose to serve a different way and went on a mission, but at the same time, military service really is that. I think people don't highlight that enough, that you are giving a portion of your life or a big chunk of your life, depending on how much you're doing
Yeah,
in there, but you're serving the community, and everything from domestic stuff to going abroad, and you're serving. So
sure.
I appreciate that a ton, and I think
Hey,
it's
man,
awesome.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, thanks for the support, man. It was definitely, looking back on it, I was very young when I went in, and looking back, I'm really thankful for that time. It shaped a lot of things, for the now, right? Like, so, I don't think if I had skipped over that portion of my life, I don't think that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. And so, it's really cool to be able to look back on that and see how that kind of shaped things into what they are now. And I am really thankful for that. And I had experiences that certainly I'll never forget, and that have changed me forever, and have ultimately been able to use those things, I think, to become a better person,
Yeah.
and somebody that I look in the mirror and like, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. That's and again, that takes a lot to serve a community in general. And there's so many different ways to serve, and the military is definitely one of those. High intensity. You're giving literally your whole life during those years that you're in for that. So I appreciate that. And then, so veteran owned and then veteran staff. Do you have? I didn't realize there was more than just you and your wife.
No, man. Yeah, we've got a couple of guys. I've got one that's still in the military. His name's Patrick, and you guys know him on Instagram, Condition Set,
Okay.
and he works with me, and he's just that guy. So I think that every company, I think that it's pretty important to find that guy, right? Like the guy that when you leave and go out of town, that you're comfortable having somebody run your company, run your business, and he is that guy for us, and has allowed us to continue to grow. And I mean, right now we're in a situation where we still have additional staffing needs. I mean, our company is getting big and busy, and we're pretty much right now in a spot where our arms are around it, just trying to hold the growth back until we're in a situation to allow it to go further than it has.
No, that's amazing. That's really awesome to hear.
It's super
That's
busy, man.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I've chatted back and forth with Patrick, but I didn't realize that he officially worked with you on building arrows and stuff. So that's awesome. Um, so I guess
Patrick handles our customer interaction. So when a
gotcha.
customer goes in and submits an inquiry, and is looking for that consultation. Every one of our builds is done via consultation. And Patrick is the guy on the other end of that inquiry that is conducting that consultation with about 90% of our customers. And he's, handling our workflows and that sort of stuff like that. So he's vital, man. He's, like I said, every company has that guy, and he is vital.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree that's something very understated and overlooked nowadays. Everyone wants to have the newest, coolest, best product, which is awesome. But at the same time, what happens if you don't have good customer service? You don't have good interactions with the company. And from my end too, working with companies, I can also say it goes that way with how I recommend companies that I recommend or work with. If you don't have good customer service, I may do a review or two on your product, but I'm not going to rep the brand the way that I do. I mean, a lot of other brands like Phorm, for example, I don't even know. Well, I do know how they did it, but the idea of having to build up that quality of customer service and loyalty from the get-go is hard, because you see all of these other companies dumping money into marketing and all of this other stuff and excelling and making a ton of money up front and getting their face out there a lot. And then you've got Phorm, for example, that it's taken them, and they've been around since 2009. And just until now is when they're really blowing up, even in the outdoors industry, when we're able to get, eyeballs, and people are like, oh, I've kind of heard of Phorm before, but never really looked into them. And it's because it's not marketing focused. It's very much that customer base sending thank you cards in your orders, reaching out to you, 110% money back guarantee, all of those things, right? You can't find that in many companies. And so I love hearing that you have someone that's dedicated to that, to be able to make sure that customers are taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, so fortunately, I'll say that throughout my professional career, I've been in service related industries and have that marketing background. And, it's pointless, in my opinion, right, to start a company and push all this marketing time and effort to generate initial income, right, and then fall short in terms of taking care of those people after the fact. Because a successful business doesn't want your business one time, right? They want your business repeatedly. And that's how you grow, right? You can only reach so many people for the first time. You're going to need to continue reaching new people and having those people that have had that positive experience with you come back and do it over and over and over. And those are the companies that are the giants, right? No huge company is filled with first-time customers. It's just not, it's not the way it works. And so, it would be a shame, I think, to put all this effort in. And when I tell you effort, bro, we're putting in the effort, man. We're grinding. And it would be a shame to waste that time and then fall short on the other side of that, the side that really pays off.
Exactly. No, I definitely understand that. And yet, just because you have a diamond, you can't necessarily polish a turd. You can't.
That's right.
you can't cover it in crap and be like, but it's so good.
And it'll be exposed eventually, right?
Yeah. Yep. And what's awesome. So in my 9 to 5, I'm struggling with that. It's one of those things where, and I know we're kind of going down this marketing rabbit hole, but I think it's a point that needs to be made for anyone that wants to either start a company like yourself or works for a company, maybe as an entrepreneur, inside the company. I don't know how many times I've brought up to my bosses that, yes, we may have the best quality product, but I can't lie and overcome customer service issues. That's just something that I can't do.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So, and they, cause they've come down on me sometimes where they're like, oh, well, why did you say this or that, or empathize with the customer about this issue they were having? I'm like, because that's how they want to be treated. And they're going to come back and buy more stuff that's going to work. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, oh, our customer service is amazing. Sorry you had that bad experience. It's great. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be like, oh, man, that's terrible. We're working on it. It's getting better, but, it is what it is. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, man. There has to be these multiple, facets to running a business. And I think every box has to be checked. And that's the separator, right? The difference maker is if you're missing any of these key components, right? You're you're falling short, and you're going to pay the price in the long run.
Exactly. Exactly. So talk to me a little bit here about how, so I guess you work for Toyota officially right now. Do you drive Toyota?
Yeah, I drive a Tundra. I drive a new
Okay,
Tundra.
cool. The new
Yeah,
ones?
yeah, I have a 2023 Platinum. I will say, listen, I've worked for Toyota since '06. This is my first Toyota. Okay, listen,
Yeah.
I was a Ford truck guy. Toyota makes a super reliable vehicle, but that truck just needed an update so bad, man. And
Yes.
finally they updated it, and they put the creature feature in there and made it all techy, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have one of these now. And so I bought it, and it's been really cool. It's a great truck. It's got a big Adams Precision Archery decal on the back of it. I'm one of those guys, and
Yep.
so yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. It's one of the trucks that I'm looking at eventually so right now I drive a Taco, and I'm getting that thing built out right now. Yeah, it's a 2010. I didn't necessarily love the third gens, and I got a screaming deal on this. It had I think 60,000 miles, and
that's nothing.
I bought
on that
it
truck
a couple years ago. I know, right? So I've already doubled that. I'm already at 130 just in the years that I've had it.
That's still nothing. That's still not, that truck, man.
Yeah.
That's one of the best trucks ever.
Yeah, it's a little small for what we're growing into as a family, but my goal is to build it out, do some stuff with it. It's a great hunting rig. I take it down some razor trails where I come back and my wife's like, "What did you do to your truck?" I'm like, "I told you I bought the used one so I could scratch it up, right?
So I can beat it up."
Yeah, I just barely had to change out the CV axles at 130,000 miles, and with a 3-inch lift and 33s on it. Just barely had to change them out. So that's impressive.
That's low maintenance, bro. That's low maintenance. Yeah, right. I'll take it.
Exactly. So, but yeah, my goal is to and I know you work in it, and I know this is kind of an old school mindset, but once they've worked out any kinks that have to do with the engine, and I've got this Taco built out, I'm going to keep that for my son. Because what 16-year-old doesn't want a built out Tacoma?
Oh, they're 100% of them will take it,
even if it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 or whatever. 100%. Anyone, yeah. And so right now he's kind of like, I don't know, Dad, but I know when he hits that 16, he's going to be wanting it.
Yeah,
so,
when all of his friends are telling him how cool that truck actually is, bro, he's going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to be that guy now. I'm going to take
exactly.
100%.
So then I'll upgrade to a Tundra, or I was looking at either a Tundra or an F-150 kind of deal. I don't need a lot of towing power. I just want some good off-road, a little bit more space.
Yeah.
So
I traded an F-150 for the Tundra. I traded an F-150 for the Tundra, and it was a great truck. I loved it. But man, the new Tundra just kind of, it caught my eye, and obviously being in that environment, man, I'm just looking at it day after day after day. And it finally broke me down. It broke me down. So I gave in.
That's awesome. Yep. We'll have to talk trucks later, though. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with you.
We'll be here the rest of the day.
Right. Exactly. So you got, you're working with Toyota, then your wife got sick of you just building your own arrows and said, hey, you need to do something with it. So you started the company. And so talk to me about kind of that process. Why arrows? Why not anything else? I mean, there's a ton of arrow builders out there. I'm always interested in people that are hopping into a saturated market. Why did you choose that? And then what differentiates yours versus others?
Well, for starters, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't research how saturated that market was prior to. That's just, that's the most honest answer. But I think that there's a line, right? So you've got these guys who are arrow builders, but how many of them are serious arrow builders, right? How many of them are, how many of them are walking you through a process versus just having you say, hey, this is what I want, and whether that's appropriate for your setup and your hunting situation or not, they're just building you whatever and taking your money and on your way you go. And so I think the thing that differentiates us is that no matter how big we get, I'm going to hire as many people as I need to that will be able to take the time to do an individual consultation with you, talk about, every customer has the same conversation with us in terms of tell us about your bow, tell us about your broadhead, tell us about your hunting scenario, tell us about the shot distances that you're comfortable taking on an animal versus when you're practicing. And let's give you recommendation A and recommendation B for your particular setup. We're going to teach you how to clock your bow so that we can put the appropriate helical on that arrow for. I mean, everything, every detail is covered. And then we provide an experience that nobody else is doing right now. Once we settle on those, those basic things, right? You're then going to be able to go into a design selection tool that we wrote the code for and made, and you're going to be able to see your arrow on the screen, and you're going to be able to click every wrap, every vein that we have in our catalog. It's going to put those items on the arrow for you so you can see what it's going to look like and pick out what you want. And so we're not just building them as far as, the craftsmanship and taking the time to making sure that, that every insert is put in right and tuned and spun and all of that. We're also doing the cleanest work out there. I mean, I think that our work is super clean, and we have something for everybody, man. We can do customization as far as your wraps go. If you want something that's specific to you or one of one, we can do that. We do all of that stuff. And I just think from A to Z, I think that our experience is the best. I don't think that anybody's providing the type of experience that we are. So I think that's what differentiates us, is the experience.
No, that's awesome. And so that's a really cool in-depth. So it's not just simply you put in some specs and then, you get it sent over to you. You kind of walk them through getting everything clocked and everything like that. So
everything,
that's really impressive. And Patrick takes care of all of that, or do you guys have multiple people that walk people through stuff?
Me and Patrick both are involved in that process. Me and Patrick. Awesome. So Patrick, listen, I have to pull the reins back on this guy from time to time because this guy is an animal, right? This dude, I'll wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and he's already up working inquiries. I'll go to bed at midnight and he's still up working inquiries. And I have to text him. I'm like, dude, relax, bro. Like, please go spend some time with your family or take a nap or something. But yeah, man, we have a fast response time. We're both on top of it. There's great communication within the company, among all of us. And, every customer gets taken care of in a timely fashion. And that's what it's about, man. That's the starting point to that experience that I was telling you about.
No, that's really cool. So and then once you get that, you walk them through the whole process, you get everything built out for them. What would be, I guess, a couple of questions with arrow building? What's one of your more popular, is everyone kind of going towards a heavy arrow now because of Mr. Ranch Fairy? Or is it, people are on the lighter end, or is it kind of this middle ground where it's about 450, 500 grains?
So of course, you're going to have guys that know exactly what they want, right? I want this weight built out like this, and I'm not going to argue with that guy. I'm going to give my opinion, but I'm not going to argue. But, most of our clients are looking for a recommendation, and my recommendation for depending on the bow setup, right, of course. But if we're talking IBO, right, 70 and 30, my recommendation on a whitetail arrow or a mule deer arrow is always going to be something 470 to 500 because I shoot that. I've shot it for years. I believe that is where you find that best mix of speed and momentum and penetration, and it kind of gives you the best of all components. You know what I mean? I personally don't subscribe to what the Ranch Fairy's talking about. I don't think you need a 700 grain arrow to kill a whitetail. I think you give too much in exchange for what you get. But that's, maybe an opinion piece. I don't know.
Yeah. No. And I know there's been some, what people are they're perceiving it as beef, which is kind of funny. I don't know if you've seen any of that between people are like, oh, well, Dudley's saying this and he's like adamantly anti Ranch Fairy. And it's funny because you sit down and getting into the industry, just a couple years that I've gotten to know people, even local archery shops, unless you are completely a screw up, they're not like enemies. There is no like animosity. And so knowing Dudley, and I don't know Troy very much, he'll eventually get on the podcast here. We're working things out there, but he definitely is like, he comes off as a certain idea on YouTube. And I think people get these little glimpses of him, but they don't realize, they don't think he's not out hunting elk. And I think Dan did a really good job of showing that, where, he had Troy in his camp in Texas. I think it was this year. And he specifically asked Troy in front of the group when Troy was presenting, he said, Troy, how many elk have you killed? And Troy's like, well, I haven't yet. And so he's like, okay, so in the window of Ranch Fairy, killing whitetails at 20, 30 yards, killing hogs, which hogs are little tanks if no
It's
one's gone out.
hogs. I mean,
Yeah,
hogs is really where he's coming from.
exactly. And so if you're out there shooting these little tanks, yes, I mean, that makes sense. But then you've got Dudley talking about how the arrow trajectory and how he was sick of seeing these people out in Big Sky, Utah is where he finally got fed up with it and started talking about it. How he's seen people that he recognizes from years past, how they've gone backwards in their skills because they have this big old arc and they're hitting their trajectory.
Because they have this huge margin of error. You're creating a wider margin of error, and that's got to be moderated, right? I'm not saying that there's not benefits to it. I'm not saying that there's not benefits to it, but at the end of the day, how many bow hunters that are not Dudley or Levi or Cam, these guys that are the top tier, experienced, their whole lives of being in that situation. How many everyday bow hunters, when that 150-inch deer comes out in front of them at 40 yards, are going to be steady as a rock? How many? What percentage of them? 1%, 5%? And so for those other guys who are out there at 40 yards with a 700 grain arrow, well, your margin of error with that arrow is a hair. That's it. And so can you manage your emotions in that situation? Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but I would rather have a 475 grain arrow where when I'm in there and I'm shaking like a leaf, I can make a small mistake and not pay the full price for it.
And on top of that, just that trajectory that people don't think about with, the tree branch that's in the way that you don't see, or, whatever it is. Like, yes, there's big benefits to those heavier arrows, but it's just something that I want to ask you as an arrow builder. Like, are people really trending that way? And I know people get adamant about it, but
it's fizzling out. And that's what I'm seeing is that the trend has peaked and it's fizzling out, and guys are, a lot of people are like, okay, I was 570 last year. I want to dial that down to 520 this year, or 515. And I'm one of those guys. Listen, I'm one of those guys. I was shooting a 550 grain arrow at one point, and I kind of just started bringing that back a little bit because I don't really think that for me and my hunting scenario, and everybody's different, right? But for me and my scenario, I didn't have a need for it. And a 480 grain arrow will just blister any Georgia whitetail, out there. And so I don't need that extra weight. I'm still shooting a proper broadhead and good to go there.
That's awesome. No, that's, and yeah, there's so much that goes into it. And I think just people need to recognize what are you shooting? What's your goals? Where do you hunt? That's another thing. Are you in open country where you're not worried about hitting a branch? Or are you in the thick, nasty stuff, North Idaho, where there's branches everywhere and you have to be able to shoot through a bush to be able to get to the animal? You just got to check out your stuff. And yes, YouTube's cool. A lot that
goes into it.
Yep. YouTube's cool. You get a lot of information, but that's what I just kind of want to bring it back to the fact that I love that you guys walk people through. What are they wanting to hunt? How their arrow clocks. There's education behind it, which again, there's not a lot of that. And you can't fault companies per se if they're so big that they can't have someone that can walk people through this stuff consistently. But I'll just say, like dialed archery, for example. I know for a fact that Scott is known to get on FaceTime and talk to people for 2 and 3 hours getting their bows set up because he's sick of, because they called him about something about not getting enough clearance. And he was like, well, hold on, let's check out your whole setup instead of saying, no, I know my site's the best. He's like, okay, well, you've checked all these pieces on your site. Now let's look at your setup. Great. And then that's where he finds D loop's too high, peep height's crazy, whatever's going on,
And that's a perfect example of what we were talking about, kind of, going back to the service side, right? I've gotten to know Taylor pretty good over at Dialed, and those guys are killing it right now. And it's because they have a really cool product, an innovative product, and then they back that through that support channel that's available,
Exactly. It's one of those things, again, great quality, and they may have, they've got so many things that they're working on here in the near future as well. They're constantly innovating, getting better, but they back it up with customer service. And I have yet to find someone who genuinely has a complaint that when I ask him, well, have you reached out other than posting about it and complaining about it in a comment? Have you actually reached out to them? Most of them say, no, I haven't. And
Of
I'm like,
course,
okay, well,
yeah.
there you go. You know?
Reach out, and if they aren't willing to help you, then then voice your frustration. But I mean, no company's perfect. There's going to be issues,
Yep.
right? And the bigger you get, the more issues you're going to have. But it's really about how you adapt your company to be able to deal with those issues in that volume.
Exactly. So all right. So you walk people through the steps. So you get everything clocked right. I do want to ask you too, how much do you think it affects arrow flight, clocking the arrows? That's a popular question nowadays. So I want to hear from you.
Yeah, this is a point of contention, right? I talk about this pretty often. So I think that it makes a difference, right? And so in my mind, you've got your guys, you've got your companies out there that when they're doing builds and stuff like that, they only offer it to the right, and there are companies like that. And so for me, the logic behind it, when I think about it, this is what I tell my customers. If I've got an arrow that comes out and it wants to rotate left, and then I force that to change and turn that arrow to the right, well, even though that happens in such a microsecond of time, you can't convince me that there is no efficiency loss there. You're stopping something and then starting it over. And so, I think that the ideal situation is to build an arrow that performs at the highest level of efficiency possible. And if that means promoting the natural rotation of the arrow, then give me a good reason that you wouldn't do it. Give me a good reason. Don't tell me that the broadhead's going to unscrew, because by the time that happens, if it does, the job is done.
Yeah.
So, I think that the pros outweigh the cons. If I have a broadhead unscrewing an animal on the way through, well, it's going to happen after the job is done, because we're rolling through at 280, 290 feet a second. I mean, I just don't think that there's a better argument that could convince me to change that or to force that, to happen.
No, cool.
What do you think about
that? Oh man, asking me my own question.
I'm curious.
So here's where I stand on it. If you've already got your arrows built, don't mess with your setup unless you're shooting groups like this at 20 yards, right? Like if you've got good tight groups and you realize your arrow's clocking to the left, but you're fletched to the right, don't go screw your whole setup up. Like just go hunt, and then tinker around in January, February timeframe when you're not hunting, or
Right.
if you are chasing Q's deer, then go out in March and April. Do tinker then, but don't screw your whole setup up because you think you're losing some efficiency with your arrow when you're shooting tight groups. Now, if you're building your arrow setup, then I think that there's just enough efficiency of arrow flight that you could get tighter groups out of it. Me personally, I know my Mach 34 clocks left and my Omen clocks left. I didn't clock my arrows until after I'd already built my arrows for my Mach 34, and they honestly both shoot very similar groups. So I've got right fletch for my Mach and I've got left fletch for my Omen.
Sure.
It's just, but I hadn't built my arrows yet for my Omen when I found out about the left clocking. So that's what, for me. And plus, I mean, my arrow's flying out so fast, I don't know how much efficiency I'm really losing anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my ideology on it.
And I think there's another side to it, right? I mean, let's be fair to the debate, right? Like, yeah, we're talking about these small portions of efficiency and stuff like that, but let's not forget that most of us who are worried about these types of things, and this is a very real comment, right? Like most of us that are worried about these types of things aren't skilled enough where it matters. I mean, and that's that's just a fact, right? If you're not shooting in the Olympics, if you're not, again, Dudley, Levi, Cameron, Chris B, these guys that are these super high level shooters, maybe you're not good enough to notice that difference. But for me, I'm just bougie like that. And I also, want to make sure that in that moment, right, like I have done every possible thing that I could to prevent it.
I mean, let's talk about helical here too, right?
Look at that, bro.
That's that whatever 5 or 6 degree you get off of that Arizona Easy Fletch. But that's to the left. These are for my Omen. I had to go with red black on everything, right? It's gonna suck to
Man,
try and find in the field, but
that is some nasty helical on that thing,
that
man.
those fletchings though are just so beautiful. Gotta love them.
Yeah.
Got that first Phorm outdoors, but
Yeah, dude.
I just again, for me, I agree with you 100%. It's one of those things where if I'm going into target archery, 100%, I'm knock tuning, bear shaft, all the crap
Everything.
to make sure that it's everything. With my hunting setup, I'm more like, can I hit a paper plate at 70 or 80 yards
That's right.
consistently?
That's right.
And for what I'm hunting, that's what matters.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I think we get a little hung up on shooting, groups this big at 60 yards when really, I mean, do you need to shoot a group that big at 60 yards, or can you consistently shoot a group this size at 60 yards? Because even on whitetail, right? Like, it doesn't matter if I hit over here or over here, I'm still in the lungs on that whitetail. So, of course, we want to get it dialed in as tight as possible, but sometimes I think there's a bit too much pressure on ourselves about it. Dudley says, right? We need to spend more time just shooting the bow. Just shoot the bow, man. Shoot the bow every single day and watch the improvement that happens without tinkering with your equipment, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's definitely one of those things that we go down these rabbit holes and, that happens. But, it's fun questions to ask, especially people that like to tinker, or like you build arrows. So it's attention to detail. So I do appreciate that you're not cookie cutter. You do walk people through that. And again, like I said, my theory, for what it's worth, I'm still new to archery, but is that, if you've already got your arrows built, don't screw them up. But if you haven't, then clock your arrows and get a little bit more efficiency out of them, kind of deal. So I think it's cool that you guys walk them through that. I guess the other thing, let's talk about spine here. What do you prefer for people to do if they're right on the border? Do you prefer that you go a little bit stiffer on the spine or weaker?
Stiffer.
Okay.
Yeah, stiffer. I think that weak is going weaker is something that you can't tune out. You can tune. You can still come to tune with an arrow that's a little bit over spined for you, and then also, in that situation, I think that gives you flexibility down the line. Let's say that you're considering going a little heavier on your draw, or you turned out to be a half-inch short on your draw length, and you're tinkering around and you realize you like 28.5 better than 28, or you want to go 25 grain heavier on your broadhead. That keeps that door open for that, versus if you are right on that line and you ride that line and you go on the weaker spine, now you can't go any further with that. You're going to be buying new arrows if you want to go 25 grain heavier, or if so I think that the benefits of going a little bit stiff on the spine in that situation versus staying weak on the spine are greater to go a little stiffer.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's kind of where, it's funny because I've only got a like 28 and a half inch draw. So just kind of a little bit right at average. Yeah. But kicking out those heavier bows, a lot more energy. And then on top of that, I usually run around 175 to 200 grains total up front between the outsert and broadhead. And so, I tend to go on the stiffer, and this year I actually had to go up to 250 for some of my arrows, just because it is what it is. And with a rip TKO, you only gain like it's either 0.1 or 0.01 grains per inch.
Tenth of a grain, yeah. So you go that 250 is a 8.9 grain per inch arrow. And on a side note, I think that's the very best 5mm arrow on the market right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is a better 204 shaft out there, period.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I know Easton's here in my backyard, but I can't deny I don't want to go heavier, which the Axis is heavier grains per inch.
It's just a heavy arrow, man.
I think it's like 2 or 3 grains per inch for the same spine stiffness. And so, I went with Victory. I love the way it's set up, but I love the grains, the total grains that I get out of it. I really like the 4mm if you're running 2 setups, and I'll say, this, the 4mm from them, if you're running the Valkyrie, the full Valkyrie setup, not the screw in, but the actual like center pin system, or the Aaron Snyder setup with iron will, because of the way those components fit with the 4mm. Everything else, I haven't found anything yet. Now, I haven't tested. I know MFJJ just came out with some new titanium half outs for the 4mm. So those would be cool to test. But outside of that,
I also haven't messed with them.
Yeah, outside of that, I haven't really found anything that is as durable. Now, again, if you're just shooting a couple arrows a day, if that, the standard stuff is okay. But if you shoot enough that you could possibly bend that aluminum, even in foam, you hit a cold piece of foam, whatever, something hard, the dirt behind it, that stuff can bend. And so having those full setups with the center pin system is just, it's a whole nother level. Like that's just, durable.
Man, I'm super curious about the Valkyrie stuff. I was actually talking to Pat about it the other day, and he's really, he's sitting over here like watching me right now, but he is really interested in it, and I am too, man. I think it's like truly a unique system compared to anything else on the market. I don't have experience with it, so I can't speak to it. But we're right on the edge of trying some of that stuff out, man.
I will tell you, it's expensive, obviously.
Yeah.
And from what I know, VPA actually is the one that makes the broadheads for Valkyrie. So it's that same stiffness, but they make a 3-blade with Valkyrie. And then the Evolution guys, Evolution broadheads, I don't know if you've seen their stuff. They're mechanical. So they're mechanical. So Valkyrie's mechanical is made by Evolution, but you throw the center pin system from Valkyrie on it. So it's kind of, but the Valkyrie system, so the Valkyrie solid head is a beast. It's like throwing a spear at something. I mean,
it looks pretty gnarly, bro. It's just like, dude.
Yeah, it's nasty and it's sharp. So last year, kind of my bad experience. I finally drew a buck tag, but just up here close to us, and so I wasn't looking for anything more than a 2-pointer. Or better. Like I still haven't knocked down any big bucks. So like, I would go up in the morning before work. I'd go up there and hunt. And it came to like one of the last days. And I ended up getting, a little forky. It was like an 80-yard straight downhill shot. Like I was up on a ridge almost, and he was down here. He walked across. He was a little bit more quartered to me than I thought when I finally found him. But, I shot, 80 yards. It was a 4mm full center pin system with a Valkyrie. It went just above his shoulder blade, between his shoulder blade and his spine, ran all the way through him and out his right butt cheek. And
that's serious business, bro.
And that was at 80 yards. It was like 78, 80 yards.
Bro, I'm impressed that you took that shot at 80 yards. That's grown man stuff, bro.
It's yeah. that was kind of a last day thing. I need to get this done kind of deal.
Oh yeah. I know. Trust me, I've been there.
But here's and I was comfortable with that. I told myself I won't shoot past 80, but I will shoot, right at that 80 mark. I was comfortable with that shot. But the other thing was that the blood trail, because I was so high up, it didn't bleed out the top hole, obviously, because the blood's all pulling down. And then out the backside, the guts had plugged the hole. So I didn't get a blood trail. And it was like fresh snow. And so at first, I watched the arrow. It's a long enough shot and it feels like forever. So I'm watching it and I see the fletching sink in, and he kicks, his snow blew off his back, like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I got him. Right. And I watched all these deer. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I watched all these deer file out of the draw, and I was looking, I was like, well, I don't see any with holes. So he's gotta be down there. And of course a hiker comes up behind me. Cause that's how Bountiful is. People they love these, they'll hike all year. It's crazy to me, but he comes up, he's like, oh, what, he's talking to me about it. He's totally cool about it. He's like, oh, that's awesome. And he was watching the deer with me, seeing if he could see anything fall over. And he went off. And so then I went down the trail, or I guess down the super steep side of the mountain, and get down to it. And I couldn't find my arrow. I still have yet to find that arrow. I have no idea where that thing went. It went into some super like nasty oak brush crap. And there was no blood, there was no guts, nothing. And so I was like, well, maybe I missed. I'm like replaying it in my head. I'm like, maybe I missed. And I'm like, no, I swear, like that was a kill shot. Anyway, follow his trail. And so I stopped on this little ridge that had this little tiny draw right, beside it. I stopped there and I was really frustrated. I was like, man, I said, I've got to get back to work.
Thought I was going to get this done.
Yeah. So I got to get back to work. Went back down to work. Came back up because I actually had lost my Ultra View thumb release. It fell off on that trying to find the deer.
Did you ever find it?
So I'm getting there.
Okay.
That's, and for people that don't know, that's like a $300 release. And so, and it was the stainless one. It wasn't the aluminum. It was the black stainless. Yes. Yep. And so I go back up, and my main focus at that point was like, I thought I'd missed the buck. So now I'm trying to find my release.
I want my release.
And yeah, I want that release back. And so I go back up. My son brings his metal detector. Like we're like hiking up and down, and I just retraced my steps, and I happened to get almost to the top where I had taken the shot from, and I looked back down and I saw the black. I don't know how it stood out, but I found it. This was like almost 2 weeks. Bro. It was almost 2 weeks later. Like we had a trip and other stuff going on.
Oh my gosh.
Like I had all this going through my head, like, oh crap. And anyway, so then a couple days after I'd gone up and found my release, I get a text from my buddy. And he's like, hey, wrapping up my season. And it's unfortunate. I found this deer, and it's kind of a crappy shot. It's really far back. And I was like, oh man, where'd you find it? And he told me. I was like, oh no. And and so he sends me the picture, and it was the exit hole. So it looked like it was a really far back shot. So I go back up and I tag the animal, and grab the head off, and I just kind of checked out the shot, and that's how I found out it had gone through spine, shoulder blade, one of the lungs, liver, and all of the guts, and out the back hind quarter, and it blew through.
Yeah, that's serious. That's serious business. At 80 yards, that's serious business, man.
And that was a 470 grain arrow, 475-ish grain arrow. With that Valkyrie
that's
setup.
what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying, man. There's so doubling back to it. How could that situation have been better with a 600 grain arrow?
No, it wouldn't have, unless it punched him in the shoulder. It had like a fist on the end of it, knock him over. But like,
ties him on the way through. Here he is.
But the only thing I could have done better was probably use a mechanical on that shot and open the hole up a little bit more. But even then, like that's
my only gripe with the fixed blades, man. That's my only gripe with the fixed blades is I've been hunting with them for 4 years steady, and I am yet to find a really great blood trail. Like, it's spotty. There's blood here, there's blood there, but I mean, it makes me a little jealous of these of the rage guys, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's this blood trail that you could be blind and still follow. And so, I'm trying to find that mix, man, and I'm going to try something new this year. I've been shooting single bevel, for the last 4 years, and I'm actually trying a Sever this year because I think it's a durable mechanical, and I can't even believe I'm saying this right now, dude. I've been such a proponent of fixed blade heads, but I'm a tinkerer, man. I want to tinker with something different and see kind of what that difference is. John Lusk did some testing on the Sever, and they did really, really good. So I'm curious.
Yep. And they're here in my backyard too. So they're one of the, so here's the thing that I've figured with mechanics. And again, this is coming from a new guy. I don't have a ton of experience, but from what I gather from what people talk about with mechanicals versus fixed is if you are hugging that shoulder, you got a problem to begin with. And I think people hug that shoulder a little too much, or they don't realize where that, like if the leg is back, it's protected a lot more than if they're stepping forward, right. And you need to kind of see that position, be able to picture anatomically. That flat part of the scapula isn't terrible to break through at all, but it's when it's back and you've got the humerus mixed with the scapula, or you've got the knuckle of the humerus And
The
right there,
knuckle
that
is
thick
really,
part.
really the toughest,
Yep.
right?
Or even the spine of the scapula. Like if it's
Yeah.
down a little bit and you get the spine of the scapula. So I just always tell people, like, check your anatomy, but realize you have all this other space right behind it. You don't need to hug that shoulder to get into the heart shot necessarily. You need to focus on getting a good double lung shot.
Yeah.
And I think that, and again, this is me. I haven't really tested mechanicals on other than grouse and turkeys, but it works really great on grouse. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I shot one. I shot a turkey with one of the severs
Yeah,
this spring, man, and I couldn't believe it, dude. The arrow just like, I mean,
yeah,
it zipped right through, which is counterproductive to what you're trying to do when bow hunting turkey. But yeah,
hmm,
I mean, I was like, okay, well, I think I'm going to try these for whitetail this year,
there you go.
and I am going to have to be cognizant of that shot placement a little bit different. I'm going to have to change a little bit of what I've been doing because I have been aiming just right on that shoulder with those fixed blades, man, because it's just not been an issue, man. It slips right through that shoulder, almost like it's not even there. I've been shooting an iron will for 4 years, and
Mm,
they make a great
hmm.
broadhead, man.
Oh
And
yeah,
gosh, I haven't had one that won't pass through no matter where I hit the animal. And so I am going to have to make some adjustments this year, I think, with that shot placement, kind of bring it back and try to avoid that shoulder situation for sure.
yep, yeah. So my idea this year is whitetail. I'm going to be using the Sever 2.0s. And I think this is going to come out after hunting season, so I'm okay to tell it because I've still got to do kind of a final breakdown of what I'm using on my arrows. But I think for whitetails, I'll be using the Severs, and then with my hunting setup, I'm going to be using the Iron Will solids and either that or the Evolution solids. Have you seen those?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
I haven't spent a lot of time researching them, but I'm
Cool.
familiar.
I've got them back here, so I'll grab them and show them to you. But um,
Yeah.
either probably the Iron Will solids or the Evolution solids in my quiver, and then with like a backup arrow of the Evolution mechanical. I always get it's either Jekyll or Hyde. It's one of the two, but either way, the solids for first shot and then mechanical for second shot on my I just have elk this year. So if I was shooting
Nice.
deer, I would probably, like a mule deer, I'd probably use a mechanical for a first shot. But with the elk, they're just so much tougher. The hide's even tougher. So
Plenty of
I want to
fun.
start. Yeah, I want to start with that fixed head. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'll be doing. And then when I go out for whitetail in Ohio, I'll be the 2.0 Severs. Which Severs are you going to be shooting?
The 175. I
Okay.
went with the 17. I went with the 175. I have the 2.0s. That's what I use for turkey. Again, man, I was trying to prevent that pass through, which is why I didn't, use a fixed blade on the turkey. And man, that 2.0, it just blistered him, dude. It passed right through. Like, I mean, I probably could use them for whitetails and it would be no problem. But I still wanted to, I have a hard time letting go. So I wanted to maintain as much of that penetration as possible, but not be counterproductive to the reason that I was considering making that switch in the first place and go to like a 1.5, because if I'm going to leave that, still a small hole like that, I might as well just keep shooting what I'm shooting.
Yep.
So I'm
Exactly.
just I'm towing that line, man, and trying to figure out what I like. It pains me to even consider shooting a different broadhead than Iron Will because I've been so satisfied with the way that they perform. But my property has changed over the last few years, and it's
Hmm.
becoming more and more important that I have that blood trail to follow because before it was newly timbered. A lot of it was newly timbered, and so you had that visual aspect of being able to shoot and see it happen, right? See the deer go down
Hmm.
or whatever the case is. But it's not like that anymore, man. I've got 12-foot tall brush and everything out there, and I'm just going to need to be able to see that blood because I'm not going to see the animal go down. So
Yeah. No, for sure. No, that makes sense. I'm excited to see how that goes for you and
me too.
how that turns out.
Yeah, I got Pat shooting the severs this year too, man. So we're all gonna do it and see how it turns out. My wife's still gonna shoot
Nice.
the iron wheels.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm doing the 2.0 because I talked with Connor a little bit over there at Sever, and he was like, dude, with your poundage, like the 1.75, because I had the 2.0s and the 1.5s, and he was like, I don't know why you're still wanting to shoot the 1.5s. He was like, but well, he was like, you need the 2.0s. I said, okay, whatever. So we'll see how that goes on whitetail this year, but I imagine it'll be good.
I think that it's a mechanical that really separates itself, man. And I think one of the coolest features of that broadhead is the way that the whole thing swivels in there. So if if you're trying to get through a rib cavity or something like that, I don't think you lose a lot of penetration because it's designed to just roll around that rib. And I think that is a super clever design. And I think that it sets itself aside to a point in that segment of mechanical broadheads,
Yeah, exactly. Cool. What part of arrow building haven't we touched on yet that you'd like to talk about with people?
I mean, you tell me. I feel like let's talk about lighted nocks for a second. A lot of guys. Listen, I am an anti-lighted knock guy. I just think that there are other ways to track that arrow after the fact, and I think that we're talking in small numbers here, right? 10 grains, 8 grains, that sort of thing. But I think that stuff matters. And I do think that there's a value to front of center in arrow performance. And I think that 12 extra grain on the back of the arrow, when you could put a reflective wrap on there and save that 12 grain, it is a difference maker. It can be a difference maker. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about wraps too, because I wouldn't say anti-wrap, but I don't use wraps for various reasons. One of them being the weight savings, and the other one being the idea that it could possibly hide a crack in the arrow. And now that comes up, I've seen it happen twice. And one of them is based on theory. 2 years ago at TAC, this guy had the new Omen speed bow, crazy, awesome bow. He had an arrow in his bow and, released, and it blew up. And so my theory is that he had nicked it, and obviously you should check your arrows, but he had probably nicked it and didn't check it. And he was running wraps. And so, couldn't see the crack in the arrow itself, either that or the knock, one of the two. But that's my theory, because I know for a fact he had an arrow in there, and it blew to pieces. And so that, and then what was the other one? There was another time where I checked the arrows, so I was pulling someone else's arrow, and I was just kind of looking at him, and I was like, I noticed the knock was a little wonky. And then I saw, and up underneath, you could see, if you held it upright, you could see there was a crack in the back of the arrow, but you wouldn't have been able to see it looking at it like this rather than holding it up, And so those are my kind of concerns with wraps, is the weight savings. And then on top of that, obviously you've got to be careful. You should check your arrows, especially if you're shooting groups. But not everyone is. So, you kind of have to, weigh the pros and cons of how careful you are.
You shouldn't shoot groups, man. I think it gets to a point where you should hold tight on shooting groups, because whether you have a wrap on the arrow or not, when you get to that level, and guys that practice often, most of them, we post pictures on Facebook. Look, I Robin Hooded an arrow and this and that. I look at it, I'm like, that's cool, but bro, all I see is that you wasted money. Like, you're damaging your arrows and stuff like that. You should always check your arrows 100% of the time. That is the most valid argument that I have heard against wraps, is the hiding of the crack under the wrap. That is I don't have a response for that. That is a super valid concern. I do like that they give you the opportunity to see what kind of blood you're in better. Depending on what you put on there. I like how much easier they make it to repair. Let's say you lose a fletching or damage a fletching, shooting groups or whatever the case is. It makes it way easy to do that repair. You have a lot lower risk of damaging the shaft versus just trying to pull a vein off of a bare shaft and then scrape that glue off and all that. I mean, it's really easy to get a sliver of that carbon off of that shaft, and then that arrow's done. And so, I think it can be looked at either way. That is a good argument. The crack,
And that's only from my own experience, from seeing it on other people's arrows. You know, I've never heard someone bring that up to me, but from seeing it, I'm like, that concerns me.
That definitely goes back to checking your arrows, though, man.
Yeah.
You've got to. I mean, I think that sometimes people neglect how dangerous this is, right? Like, you know, you're not. You know, we have so much focus on the danger of a gun, right? But this is not a toy. This is a killing device. It you know, it's super dangerous, and you're playing a dangerous game when you deal with it, and you know, you have to check it every time. I mean, you know, just I would rather be safe than end up with a piece of carbon through my hand, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
yep. And then, you know,
me.
I guess
a lot of guys
Aaron Snyder had that happen last year, didn't he? He had some carbon go through his hand on a sheep hunt or some crazy awesome hunt that he got to go on. And and then I'm just trying to think, there's some other people that have had that, but yeah, it's that's scary. And I agree that people need to recognize, you know, what we're doing is fun. And, you know, but at the same time, it's dangerous. And
it's ultimately dangerous,
and the bend test doesn't always work on everything. Like, that's the other thing too, is that with the end of the shaft being damaged, the bend test is not going to tell you if it's cracked or not. You know, you still got to look at your nocks and everything. So, yeah. But that's, so how much, I guess, how much grains is a wrap?
So it depends on the material, right? Like if you use a like for example, these are printed on a matte material, and this is going to weigh 1.3 grain per inch. A fluorescent material is going to run like 1.6 grain per inch. Reflective is going to be the heaviest material at around 2.7 grain per inch. But if you look at it, Patrick's running over here throwing all sorts of different material examples on the table in front of me. But if you look at it, you know, let's say you put a reflective wrap, a 4.5 inch reflective wrap on the back of the arrow, you're still 10 grain lighter on that reflective wrap than you are on a lighted nock. And at the end of the day, you get out of your tree at night, you're looking for your arrow. If you hit that thing with a flashlight, man, they jump out at you, and you've saved 10 grain off the back of your arrow.
Cool.
And you don't have to deal with them not working. They work 100% of the time. So particularly with the micro diameter arrows, it's hard to find a reliable nock. You know, the 5 mil stuff, I think you have some more options there, but 4 mil, I mean, it's tough to find something that works.
But let's do the devil's advocate here. But what about the cool footage you get from seeing the laser beam go through the?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely cool, man. The people of Instagram are going to be upset that you stopped using them.
I know, right? Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool, man. It's definitely cool, but you know, we're going for the best arrow flight possible here. It's the name of the game, bro.
I guess I didn't think about reflective wraps. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing that I guess I need to look at. But yeah, I mean, most of my arrows, I just flash them directly to them. I don't ever really have an issue with them sticking. I did have an issue with one vein, the DCA 1.0s, the Super Sabers. The 2.0s fixed that. And then they just came out with the minis. Have you guys messed around with the minis at all?
No, I haven't done anything with any of the DCA stuff, to be honest with you. You know, competition and whatnot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if the veins themselves, because no, that makes sense. I always forget that he builds.
I've talked to him, you know, and he's asked if we wanted to carry him before and that sort of thing. But I've just kind of, you know, nothing against him. He's, in my opinion, he's the only guy out there doing it at the same level, honestly. And for that reason, I've kept my distance. It's just, you know.
Don't want to market for him. No, that makes sense. I get it.
Exactly.
I always forget that he builds arrows. Because I build my own, so I just get his veins and dink around with them. But what's your favorite?
No question about it.
What's your vein of choice for most arrow builds?
I like the Max Stealth. It's a really good vein. If I had one gripe about it, it's that it's a bit heavy. But in terms of the adhesion, the performance, the durability, how quiet it is, I mean, I think that the benefits definitely outweigh, you know, the little bit heavier weight of the vein.
Cool. No, that makes sense.
I like tack veins pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that they're so stiff that they, like, if they get bent at all, they seem to hold that shape. I
Yes.
had one vein that I had, I guess I set it down against something and it just like had like a bend in it. And I was like, oh great. Yeah. Have to refletch
Yeah.
that one. But they
It's
stick really
over. Yeah.
well and they've got a cool design. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, anything else controversial you want to bring up? Because arrow building seems to be the hot topic. So, what other controversies you want to bring up before we hop off?
Man, I try to keep it low key, man. I don't want any controversy.
No, man, good. Marketing is marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna grab the clip of you saying that you hate heavy arrow. No, I'm kidding.
Grab it. Grab it. Dude, I believe what I believe, and a guy that's never killed an elk's not going to convince me of how the best way to kill an elk is.
Mhm.
You're just, experience speaks volumes. If
Yep.
Cam Haynes wants to tell me about killing an elk, I'm going to listen to exactly what that guy's got to say.
Yep.
But not a dude that's shooting hogs telling me how to kill other animals.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, you go to someone that's made a lot of money for financial advice. You go to someone that stayed married for a while for marriage advice. You don't go to the
Correct.
person that's been divorced 7 times to to get some marriage advice.
I could not have said that any better.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. Well, cool. I think we hit on some good topics here, and
Yeah, bro.
I don't have an exact date when this is going to come out, but when this does come out, where can people find you at?
We are on Instagram at Adams Precision Archery. You can visit us on the web at adamsprecisionarchery.com. And yeah, man, listen, I got to say, we are just so thankful for the support that we've had. And we're getting this great big following of super supportive people and working with some big people in the industry now. And this is just such a cool experience. And I'm so thankful for everybody that's along for the ride, man. Seriously.
No, that's awesome. And I will say, honestly, Dustin and his crew make some of the cleanest looking builds. Mine definitely don't look like that. Mine are function over fashion. I have some cool colors and stuff, but there's some glue marks and things like that pull them out and I look at other arrows. I'm like, it's okay. Mine work really good. So
Functionality, man.
Exactly. So I guess what's the last thing you want to leave with people before we hop off?
Just to shoot more, man. I think that it's so important that we kind of make sure that we're not forgetting to practice and to shoot more and to work on your form and the things that spending money can't change, right? Be dedicated to what you're doing and be ethical about what you're doing in the bow hunting woods and just, bring honor to this lifestyle that we all are fortunate enough to live.
Exactly. I love it. Awesome, guys. I'll leave all the links down below for you guys to be able to check out Dustin's work with his team and definitely check out those arrow builds. And when you guys break your arrows or need some new arrows, definitely check Dustin out. He'll take care of you and walk you through the whole process. So, yeah, appreciate your time, man. And as I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it.